Hello, everyone, and welcome to another proMX session. On today's webinar, we will be talking about project operations and Copilot features, which are still developing from Microsoft side, and there are advances every day, we can say. There are new features upcoming, and this is what will be the topic of today. Of course, we have with us Kuldeep Gupta, the CEO of proMX India, and of course, Microsoft MVP for many years, and as well greatly experienced in project service operation, PSA, sorry, and project operations as well. And of course, to Sankalp Angchekar and Sayantan Rana are consultants in Microsoft Dynamics 365. And before jumping to the presentation, please follow our LinkedIn site to not miss upcoming webinars. And also we have a nice newsletter where we talk about all the updates, maybe news about Microsoft Dynamics World, and in general, how to do business better. And now, Tim, please, to you. The scene is yours.
Thank you, Katrina. So maybe before I start talking, let me share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can, Kuldeep.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you, Katrina. I think she introduced me, but I would still give it a small shot. I think me, Sankalp, and Sayantan will give a very small shot to give an introduction about myself. So I'm Kuldeep Gupta. I'm CEO proMX India. I'm also Business Applications MVP since last 4 years. I have been in project operations since its childhood when it was called as Project Service Automation version 2, then on version 3, and now it is called as Project Operations. So I've seen all the phases and arenas of how mature the product has developed over the course of last 6, 7 years. I have my own ebook. I have my own courses, which is free for the community. So if you go on Google and search for Project
Mhm.
Operations course by Kuldeep Gupta, you can just take the course. It's just 1.5 hours of course. Well, that's about me. Sankalp and Santan, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. So, hello everyone. Myself, Sankalp Angchekar. I work as a functional consultant at proMX. I do hold a good knowledge in business application and project operations being one of my forte. And I'm also keen into looking into all the new features released by Microsoft and also understand the impact from user perspective. Over to you, Santan.
Thank you, Sankalp. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. My name is Sayantan Rana. I am a senior functional consultant. I have an experience of almost 3 years. I have been associated with proMX for almost a year now. Prior to this, I was working in the hospitality industry, managing hotel and hospitality management. And I have worked on close to 6 or 7 projects implementing project operations. So have a fair bit of knowledge about the functionalities, and I always enjoy exploring the new features which Microsoft releases as part of their waves. And happy to be part of this webinar, and would try and share some interesting features about the project operations features. Thank you.
Wonderful, guys. Two more with me will create a, enormous knowledge output that you can see. I think I've shared my screen and you can see the agenda we are going to be covering with the second point starting. I'll take up the Copilot features. There are four good features that I will like to talk about on the Copilot front. And I will also talk about the availability schedule when they'll be available and stuff. I think Sankalp and Santhan will cover the latest features that have come in project operations. So maybe without even spending a little bit more moment, I think we should dig deep now into the topics. So let me go to the next slide. You guys known as. All right, so Copilot D365. So there are four features that Microsoft talks about in the project operations. The first one is creating of the project tasks, which is done by the Copilot automatically. The risk assessment. The third one is the project status report. The fourth one is resource recommendations. So these are four topics that we will talk about. And subsequently, when we are done with these four topics, I'll talk about the availability schedule of these topics, when they will be available and stuff like that, in the general theme for all of you guys to use it. So let's talk about the first topic, create project tasks. So when you talk about the creation of the project tasks, one, as a project manager, when you get a contract signed, the project task creation is a big pain. Okay. What Microsoft is trying to do with this Copilot feature is it's trying to club some keywords when you trying to create a project, and you mentioned some description. It picks those up and tries to create an initial draft of the project for you, which can be, of course, edited later on. So this is one good feature that, sometimes when we create a project plan, we forget some tasks which are basics and are needed when the project plan has to be done. So let's look at that feature in action. For that, I have logged into one of my environments, and I will just go to the projects tab. And for that, we'll click on the new projects to create a new project. What I will do is I'll create the project, let's say, robotics, engineering, construction. It's a construction project, first of all. So they are shifting to a new building, and they want a construction projects to be done. I'm creating that project. So I'll try to keep the spelling mistakes as less as possible, because the AI might not do a good job then. So after giving the name, I'll create a description of basically what all I need in that project. Okay. So um, we need, sorry, robotics engineering needs 4 towers with 2 elevators and a huge garden. So let's keep it now again. Yeah. So what happens is, when you try to put some name, it combines the name and the description and pick up those keywords and creates the tasks or the project plan for you. So let me also try to select a customer, maybe some customer. Okay, let's pick up proMX itself if it is, but technically it'll be robotics engineering. Now I'll save this. So once you save this project, meanwhile, on the ribbon button, you will start soon seeing the Copilot preview, because it is in preview now. It is not yet 100% out. So you see this Copilot preview, which has come up. You can see a task plan that is visible. So when I click on that, you see it is collecting the data on the basis of the name and the description. It'll compute some things and then start preparing the project plan. So what I forgot to tell you is how to enable these features, because it's before you start using it you need to enable them. Okay, so after this is done, we will go and show you how to enable that feature. So if you see, the messages are also pretty awesome. They come, and I think it is now generated. Okay. Okay. If you see here, there are this project tower construction is created. I did not do anything. It just picked up from there the framework construction, the finishing work, the elevator installation, assembly, garden development, planting selection. All these tasks have been picked up automatically. The only thing that you need to do is refurbish based on certain things that you want to add. The more better the description, the more better the project plan. That's the deal. Okay. So now first, before we move on to the next topic, this is the first one that I wanted to show you. Let's go and see where exactly you can enable these features in your area. Go to the settings, and then you can go to the parameters. In the parameters, you have a default parameter setting that you can open up. You have the feature control tab where you can click. At this moment, I have enabled the Copilot feature. That is why you are seeing disable the Copilot preview feature. So once you enable the Copilot feature is enabled, you can disable the Copilot feature if you don't want that to be working anymore in the project. So this was my first topic, how to create the project tasks automatically creating using the Copilot feature. I have a second topic now is the risk assessment. Again, what has been generally observed as a task as I keep on doing consulting to various customers, what they would also like to see is why is the project not automatically suggesting me some risks that my project might have based on some of the budgets that have been consumed until now, based on the resources that have been allocated and stuff like that, or some geographical conditions and something like that. So the system at this point of time also has a feature where you can click on that and then you can see some risk associated to that project, which will be generated automatically. So the basic requirement for that is there are some budgets that are consumed out of the project based on which it automatically creates the risks for you. So let's look at it. At this point of time, what I've done is the project that I have created is fresh one. So there'll be no resources, no time tracked against it. So I'll just go to the projects where there are some actuals. So let's look at some project and let's search for it maybe. So I can show you those features. And let me see if my favorite one is there here, Wilson. Yeah, I can see that Wilson Technologies. So here, this also project. So you see there are some efforts and I think there are some actuals that have been consumed. So would be fun here. So if you go back here, now you would see there are two more other things that have come up because as I earlier said, there is a prerequisite to use the other features. So let's click on this risk assessment. It'll try to compute certain things based on your consumption, your actuals that have been consumed by the project and how the budget looks like, and forecast some risks or showcase some risks that might be coming up in the project. You see there is a risks tab that has come up and you can see all the risks that are populated down here. See, it is also suggesting you that because of the ongoing global supply chain crisis, there is a possibility of significant delay in receiving some of the necessary raw materials. This can be a possible risk that can come up in the project. So you can keep on reading all of them. There are 8 risks that the system has prescribed. I think this is one good feature which sometimes doesn't comes to my mind. You can even add more. Of course, I mean, manual adding of risk is also available, but then this is something that the Copilot has provided you. I think the next feature is project status report. Um, this is also one wonderful feature that I think sometimes what happens is as my protocol, I keep on telling my team members every Monday there has to be a status update report that should go out to the customer stating what are the tasks that are in progress, how much amount of hours have you consumed, and which tasks are finished, what are the milestones that have been achieved. So based on, again, the data that the project has, it will generate a status update report for you, which you can download in various formats and then share it across with the customer. So let's look at it in the system. On an existing project, there's another tab that you can see in the Copilot. You can see another one, which is status update. There are internal and external. So internal is for the internal use. External one is something that you can download and send it across to the customer. Let's look at internal one first. So when you click again, it'll compute some things, try to curate some status update reports based on your tasks, progress and status, the budgets and everything. And then say internal, it is confidential. Okay, the project is in the green status, first of all, the date, on budget, the budget's like the project name, the summary. So if you try to at least read a little bit, I'm not trying to go through in detail. The Wilson Technology project is currently at 3.48% complete. So you don't have to do absolutely any calculation. The system will do it for you. The number of hours that are completed so far and stuff like that. So it is brilliantly giving you some information which is very useful. Moving down, it has some pie charts also of the total estimate of the project, some time that is being tracked or forecasted time that is to be consumed in the projects. You can drill them down and see more. If you go further down, there's more in detail written down about the finance topics here. A little bit down here is you can see all your resources that are assigned. Under them, how many tasks are assigned? 6 tasks, out of which 2 are in progress, 4 are not yet started, and stuff like that. And the different color combinations. So this is automatically generated. Nobody has done any kind of manual intervention here. So this is something that you can download, report, and then send it out in various formats to the customer. Okay, I just clicked it. I didn't wanted to click it, but yeah, okay. So this is one good feature that I would like wanted to show you. Similarly, you can go to the external and then click and then send it out. So nevertheless, this is good. With that, I think I've shown you how Copilot gives you the status update report from the system. Let's move the fourth topic, resource recommendation. So resource recommendation is one another good feature that Microsoft is put in the testing phase at this point of time. It is not out even in the preview mode. But what I have something to show you is how it will work with some screen captures that I have. But resource recommendation is when you have a project plan and on the tasks, if you have some generic resources that you have tagged, what system will do is it'll try to prescribe you some resources based on the historic experiences of their experience they have on that task, their skill criteria, and stuff like that. So this is something which let me go there because I don't have demo to show you, but I will show you the screen capture. So here is a team tab where you have some generic resources. If you see here that are tagged onto the project because we don't know, we just know the resource name, resource position name on which role you want, the required hours, whether it is a full-time resource or a contractor. So now there are certain prerequisites that you have to take care before you start doing this is you have to select the project which is staffed with one or more unnamed resource, meaning generic resources. You have to select run one row at a time. You cannot do multiple row at a time. And currently, out of all the current scoring is based on the relevance of the resources uh, based on its past experience in the projects. And in future, what Microsoft is trying to do is augment a lot of more criteria to give a perfect suggestion based on the cost, the availability, the utilization, and the skill matrix as well. So if you see one row is selected and you can see there are 3 recommendations on the right hand side that is automatically come. This happens when you click on the suggest resource button on the top here. And then there are scored based on 10, that is an exact match. 9 is somewhere there and stuff like that. And if you go on to the next slide, you can even see uh, David is on the 10 score, meaning he's the best match. He has 200 hours of relevant experience in the past projects working. It's a 100% skill match. The cost impact is this much. That means the resource when he's working for 40 hours, this will be the cost. And yes, he's 100% available at this point of time. So this is one good thing which the project manager, the staffing team, or the resource manager can take advantage of and do a very quick resource allocations to the project. Um, I think this is exactly what I wanted to show you. Moving further ahead, I wanted to throw some light on the availability schedule. Out of 4 topics, the first 3 topics that I said are all out in the preview mode on they're out on November 10, 2023. And one feature which I just last showed you was a resource recommendation, which will be out on April 1, 2024 in the preview mode for all of you guys. So we can all start enjoying the benefits. I think the normal tendency is they first push this out on the US region and then scatter it across depending on the major impact and stuff like that. So I think we will soon see it in a couple of weeks after April 1 in all our regions, including India. So with that said, I am done with my topic. Maybe we'll address the questions in the end, but I think I'll hand it over to Sankalp to take this further. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kuldeep, for taking us through the capabilities of Copilot and giving us such a great insight on the same. Now I would like to share my screen first, okay, and let me know if it's visible for you all.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So as you all know, that Microsoft comes up with new updates every now and then, and amongst which the topic which I've chose for today is project budgeting and forecasting. Followed by me, my colleague Sayantan Rana will look into the invoice revision updates and just take us through the entire vendor invoicing features. And post that, we will also look into the general availability of all these features. So talking about the project budgeting feature, okay. So let's first understand the agenda. So how I will take this forward is firstly we'll look into what is project budget and how to create a project budget from scratch. Followed by that, we will look into the functionalities and the processes that are involved in the same, and even look into how the project manager can track all the cost budgets in his specific project. So now let's assume that I'm the project manager for a specific project, and currently it's my job to create a project from scratch, have the WBS set in the system, onload the resources, etc. All this task needs to be done by the project manager. And as every project incurs a cost, irrespective, it can be from time entries, it can be from your expense entries, etc. So currently in project operations, there is no as such provision on a single view where you can see what all cost is incurred for the same. So here's where this feature comes into action, where an individual can see what all cost and track the same as per the quantity and the actuals. So what is a project budget? So let's just first understand what a project budget is. So it kind of represents a snapshot, okay, which you get of the estimated spend, and you can also across the project phases and the specific tasks associated to it. And just to cut it short, it's kind of a plan that details how you need to spend, where you need to spend, and what you need to spend, and just to compare the estimations and the actuals on a single view. Before going forward with the demonstration, I will first like to show a theoretical way of the business process which is present currently out of the box. So like I mentioned, I am the project manager, and the first job which I will do once I have to create a project is have the task, unload the resources, materials, and expenses that are needed on a project. And with that, we will have the time estimates, expense estimates, and the material estimates inside the specific project. Post that, now is the job of the project manager. So this is where this is the process where this feature starts. And now you can see the second thing which comes into action is the system asks, do you want to use the estimates which are already present? So yes, if you want to use the estimates, you can always use the time, the expense, and the materials which are already existing in the system, or else you can always go manually and create all the budget line as per your requirements. Now, for example, as we do for time entries, we also need to submit a budget, okay, and post that approval is sent. So there is no as such approval mechanism in the system, but when we go deep dive into the demonstration, I will show you how the project operations has this out of the box available. And once approval, you can see now it goes in the track mode, where all the team members who will be doing the time entries or the expense entries will be tracked inside this budget, and you can see the progress and also have this revised, because revision is also available inside the budget. So yes, now I would like to share my screen and move ahead with the demonstration. So yes, so this is the project which I have already created, and I have all the prerequisites which are already set inside the system. So as you can see, I have the task, I have the resource assignments already mentioned, and even the estimates. So now on top, you can see there is a budget ribbon button which is available. So this is something which is not available out of the box, but you need to go in the parameters. And on the top, you can see there is a feature control like you have for all the new features which are in public preview needs to be enabled from this place itself. So you will see a option which says enable project budgeting. So there is no as such disable button, since it's a one-time step and you can't reverse this process once you have enabled it. Yeah, this is how you need to enable it. And yes, suppose that you will see this button on top. If you click this button, you can see there is an option which says create budget. So let's click this up. And like we mentioned in the PPT, you get two options. One is manual and from estimates. So as I have the WBS set, I have the resources onloaded and stuff. So let's select from estimates. So now you can see there is a quick create form which gets up, and the first field which you will see is the time source. So there are two options. One is resource assignments and one is the project team members. So let's first understand when to use resource assignments and when to use project team members. So now, for example, if you have a WBI already ready inside the system, you have your resources tagged for that specific project, and even assign the hours and what all is required and have the assignment. So choosing resource assignment will be a better option. But for example, you guys don't know what all the tasks are going to be performed. You have just onloaded on a very high level who all and when are going to work. So that's where project team members will be something which you need to choose. Now, the second option you can see on the screen is contingency, and it has three parameters. You can see one is time, expense, and materials. It's something which is similar to your estimates, and contingency means a kind of a buffer which you need to which you need to add on the estimated value. So now let's say I want to add a kind of a buffer on the time transaction class line. So I will say I want to add a 10% buffer. I want to keep expense and material the same. Below that, you have the cost import options and the sales import options. So for creating a budget, I want these both lines to be added. So I will just say include and include the sales as well. So now let's select import. Give me some second. I think so the screen has frozen. Yep. Okay. So now it will. Let me just stop my sharing and again reshare the screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Yes. So now it will take 1 or 2 minutes, as I mentioned, and the budget will be created over here. Before that, it's still in progress, and you can see that the budget version is created. And this is something, as we have the versioning feature, there is always a revise button which you have, which you can use, and this functionality can also be used. The first status will be in draft, as you have the budget created, and you can see in this in-app notification which you receive after every budget which will be created inside the system. This is a very beautiful feature. So as you don't need to see if the budget is created, you will get a notification, and you can just click on that. You can see the budget is created. So let's just understand what all is added. On the right hand side, if you see, there is a budget amount which is added, which is derived from our resource assignments. And besides it, there is a very good option which says budget contingency. So as we mentioned, for all the time related transaction class, I need to have 10%. So as you can see, for all these lines, 10% is already added. And besides that, you can see there is also one more field which says budget amount with contingency. So now this is the total of these two things, and the budget amount will be created. So this is a kind of a buffer which every project manager needs to have for each and every task of his or a milestone which he has set for the specific project. So now he feels okay, everything is good, and now he needs to submit. Like we do the time entries, he also gets an option to submit this project budget. So again, we need to click on the budget button. So as you can see, the options have changed. You can see first option is submit, the second one is delete, and third one is re-import estimates. So for example, like whenever a project manager creates a project, so this is kind of a very usual thing that the project manager needs to update the efforts or change few of the tasks. Okay. So he can always do the same and just click on this option where he just select re-import estimations, and all the estimates, all the budget will be created from scratch. So for now, let's just say I want to submit this project budget. Yes, I want sure that I want to submit this project budget. And now the change which you will see is earlier, all the fields, even there, if you want to add something manually, a project budget line manually, you can do so. But now everything will be in the read only stage. So when, as you submit the time entries, everything gets in read only phase. Same over here, you will just see that everything is in read only and you can't do any changes. It will take some time to load. You can see it's an in review stage. So here it is. It's an in review stage, and now no further changes can be done. If I again go on the budget option on top, you can see there is new option which says approve and reject. So now there is no as such mechanism which is present out of the box, which says, oh, if there is a mail or something which will go for the project manager, the person who is required just needs to come on this specific project and do the approval or the rejection for that specific budget. So now let's just say I want to approve this project budget because everything seems good. Yes. Now this entire process, whenever you select, it might take a one kind of 1 minute or so. So just give some time. You might sometimes see that the lines have not loaded or something. Just refresh and you will be seeing all the required lines for the same. Now you can see that the view has changed. You can see there is actual average. You can see one is actual amount. So what is this actual coming from? So now this is where this feature comes into more action, where project manager just needs to select the budget and he can see where to what all time entries have been done, how much budget has been used for that specific task, and he don't need to just loiter on the tracking or go somewhere else to see this. But this is now available out of the box, and you can also see the forecast amount. So now the forecast amount is something which you can edit whenever it is approved as well. Why? Because now, for example, you need to revise this budget, okay, and you want to create based on the new forecasted amount. You saying that okay, I don't want it 718, I want it something around 600. So you can just set it, and whenever you revise, so there is always a revise button on top. You can always say I want to create a new budget for this specific using this specific forecast amount, not the one which is present. So like I said, this is kind of a snapshot which you have, and all the changes will be tracked on this specific tab. So once you do the time entries, it will be shown to you. You can see the consumption, the what is the percentage which is complete for that specific budget, how much is consumed. And one more thing, for example, if you don't want to see the actuals, you can always go and see the quantity which is being used from the efforts perspective. Okay, so on the right hand side, you can see the task, and you can also see that I have a resource, I have the role which is assigned, and the task this resource has been assigned on. And you can see the moment the resources start doing the time entries, you will see that there this thing will change, saying that okay, approved time entry is 100, and you can always see the quantity which is left. Let's go back, and I need to say I need let's just see how the revision works in this specific functionality. So I'm not gonna just revise it, but let's see what all options are available so as to revise this budget. So you can see, like I mentioned, you can use forecast values to revise the budget cost and quantity. So this is something which can be used. If I say yes, then the forecasted amount will be used, not the actual budget amount, and you can change this. And the second thing which you can see is create budget lines from unbudgeted actuals. So if you have your some time entries which are not already a part of this budget and you want to link the actuals for this specific budget, so you just need to select yes. The moment you select yes, the option which will come up just some time, yes, it will say consider unbudgeted actuals starting from. So there is always you need to mention from which date you want to pick up all the unbudgeted actuals so as to move ahead with the same. And the moment you revise it, all these things will change. Let's if you want, let's just do it once. Okay, and I say revise. So post revision, now the entire approved budget will be again brought back inside the in review stage, and the changes now can be done post revision. And you can see earlier it was budget version 1, now it has changed to version 2. So this is a very kind of active and revision quotation of which we have in the quotation functionality, right? Which is brought into the budgeting feature as well. And you can see it's in draft stage, and I can do all the required changes. I can say the quantity is not 50, it needs to be 40, and yes, and again you have the same process which needs to be followed. So this is with the entire project budgeting features, and definitely this is something which will help most of the project manager to have the budgeting of all the cost and track in on a single page. So maybe I would like to pass it on to Sayantan so that he can explain the functionalities related to invoicing. Over to you, Sayantan.
Thank you so much, Sankalp, for your valuable insights regarding the project budgeting and forecasting feature. I will just share my screen and take you across a couple of latest features pertaining to project operations. So the topics which I'm going to talk about today are regarding invoices, basically. The first topic which I'll talk about is invoice revision updates. Um, so invoice creation is a very critical milestone in any project's life cycle, right? And in spite of whatever checks and balances we put in the system, there are, because of some unforeseen scenarios, a requirement always comes up wherein a confirmed invoice needs to be revised or a correction needs to be done, right? This could be related to changes or credits as negotiated with the customer and the project manager for discrepancies, or could be multiple reasons because of which a confirmed invoice needs to be revised, right? Depending on the need of correction, with the latest feature, users can now choose between two options: select transactions to revise selected transactions, or select all transactions to revise the entire invoice. Just to give you a bit of a background about the existing process, once a pro forma invoice was created earlier, we only had an option of correcting the invoice. What it used to do is basically it is used to revise or reverse the entire invoice, and whatever invoice lines were there under the invoice, they used to be reversed as well. And it used to be a time consuming process for the project manager or the invoicing team to basically select those transactions which are not required to be reversed. You had to select it and manually delete those and keep only those transactions which needs to be reversed. With the new upgraded features, the invoice revision process has been significantly improved to, as I said, include the select transaction capabilities so that one can perform edits quickly and process invoice corrections in a lesser duration. This also helps improve performance of invoice corrections when dealing mainly with large invoices with hundreds or thousands of invoice line details, but requiring to correct, say, only a few of those transactions needs to be corrected, right? So for that, it's a very small feature which Microsoft has brought in, but it is very easy to use, user friendly. And without spending much time, I will take you across to the demo instance. So we can, okay, before that, the process needs to be enabled from the settings, the project parameters under the feature control as shown by Kuldeep earlier. The revision invoice feature is a one-time activity, and once you enable it, it cannot be disabled, right? There are a few prerequisites which are required before creating the pro forma invoice. So for this demo, I have already set up a project. What we can do is we can just navigate to the sales module, and under sales, we can navigate to the invoices. We have a view of all the project service invoices which are created. I have a demo invoice available over here. It is created from a very simple project contract having, say, two lines. One is a fixed price line and one is a time and material line. On each of the lines, I have on the time and material line, I have some unbilled sales actuals which were ready to invoice stage. On the fixed price lines, I have one milestone which was ready to invoice, and we have a invoice created, a pro forma invoice which is created. So now, as we can see on top, we have the confirm invoice option available. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and confirm this invoice. It will take a few seconds to process it. And once the invoice is confirmed, we can see that the status reason of the invoice has changed from draft to confirmed, right? So earlier we used to see a correct this invoice option or button over here, clicking which would reverse the entire invoice and you could, select the transactions and delete. But now we have something called as the revise button available over here, which allows the project manager or the invoicing team to either revise the entire transactions, all the transactions, or select a few specific transactions of the invoice and make corrections only for that. So for this scenario, we will click on the select transactions. And it brings up a UI page where it explicitly differentiates between the unbilled sales actuals, which are against the time and material which you are which you have already invoiced, while there are some there could be some milestones which we are trying to invoice as well, right? Again, considering a scenario where there are a lot of people who are working on the project and there are a lot of unbilled sales actuals which are ready to invoice and have been invoiced already, project manager or the invoice team, all they need to do is just click on this toggle button for all those transactions which they want to revise. So for example, we will, in this scenario, we'll assume that these time entries were not supposed to be billed to the customer, and we can just click on the revise button and change it to yes. Once this is done, all we need to do is we need to click on the create invoice button again here. Again, it will take a couple of seconds to process a correction invoice or a revised invoice. And in the revised invoice, we can see a negative entry of $2,000, which were against the time and material line has been generated. The project manager or the invoicing team can go ahead and click on the confirm invoice button again. It also notifies you that a revised invoice has been created with the selected transactions. So yeah, that's about it. If we go back to the view uh, of the invoices where we had the list of all invoices, we will now see that a negative invoice has been created for minus $2,000. It also points out that this particular invoice has a correction. So that's why the has correction value is updated as yes. Yep. So this is the first feature which I wanted to talk about. The second feature which I want to demonstrate to all of you is again related to invoicing, but this time it is about vendor invoicing, upgraded vendor invoicing. So what this does is it basically allows the project managers to or the invoicing team to verify vendor invoices in two ways. Firstly, there is a verification status which is available. It's a newly introduced features. And it also allows if vendor invoice lines references to a particular subcontract line, it allows the project manager to actually link those cost actuals from subcontractor activities to the vendor invoice lines. And the link is created by matching the cost actuals to the vendor invoice lines. Right. So it kind of gives the project manager or the invoicing team a clear picture or a visibility into what is the amount which is payable to the vendor and against which how much actual work has the vendor or the subcontractor actually performed, and it gives a comparative analysis for the same. So if I take you to the demo instance now. Yeah. So before showing the functionality about the upgraded vendor invoice, uh, there are some prerequisites which are required. So for this demo, I already have a project created with some basic tasks, and I have a team member added as a contract worker. So I have added my colleague Sankalp over here as a contract worker. We also need to have a vendor account available in place. We also need to have some subcontracts created, and against those subcontracts we need to have a purchase price list also available within the system with the correct prices or the negotiated prices which have been agreed with the vendor, right? So we have done all those prerequisites, and we can simply navigate to the project module and click on the vendor invoices, where we will see the list of all the active vendor invoices which are available for reviewing for the project manager. We have a demo vendor subcontract invoice available with us. So here we have kind of a dashboard view where it shows you what is the amount which needs to be invoiced, which the vendor has invoiced us. Say in this case, it's a 3,000. It gives you a visibility into how much of that amount has been already verified and what is the status of the verification, whether it's pending, whether it's in progress, or whether it's completed, right? So under this project vendor invoice, we have something called as the vendor invoice lines. In this case, I have just one vendor milestone created, which is of say 3,000 rupees. So this is the amount which is payable to the vendor from our side. Under the vendor invoice line, again, we have a descriptive dashboard which is available with us. It shows what is the milestone amount as 3,000. It shows us that $1,600 of that 3,000 has been matched already, while $1,400 of the pending amount is still at a pending state. And now we will see that how do we update the matched amount to say $3,000, and eventually we do the complete verification so that we are sure that actual work of worth $3,000 has been done by the subcontracted employee, and we are ready to release this invoice. So under the vendor invoice lines, we have two tabs, something called as the matched cost actuals and unmatched cost actuals. As a prerequisite, we have done some time entries for Sankalp. A couple of those time entries have already been matched. But as we see a discrepancy, we will try to find out why the discrepancy is there. So we can see that there is one time entry which has already been submitted and approved by the project manager, but it is still pending match. We need to match it. And probably there are some other time entries which have still not been approved. So if I go to the approvals tab over here, I can see that there is a time entry of 6 hours, which is pending for approval. So I, as a project manager, can go ahead and simply approve this time entry. Yeah. So the system will process this, and once the time entry is approved, a cost actual line entry will also be created under the unmatched cost actuals. If I refresh it, so now we have two lines over here. One is for 8 hours, and the other one, which we just now approved, is for 6 hours. As a project manager or as part of the invoicing team, all we need to do is we just need to select the required transactions. Yeah. And selecting that will enable a button over here called match. Project manager just needs to click on the match button, and the cost actuals get removed from the unmatched cost actuals and will now reflect under the matched cost actuals. This in turn will update the dashboard also, as we can see that the milestone amount was 3,000, and against which $3,000 worth of effort has been matched as well. Pending amount is 0. While this is in progress, the verification status of this vendor invoice line is in progress. The project manager, once he has verified everything is as per expectation and everything is in place, he or she can just simply click on the complete verification button over here. Yep. This gives you a notification and asks you if you are sure to complete the verification of this vendor invoice lines. You simply click on OK. And the verification status updates to complete, right? And now we can see at the project vendor invoice level also that the verified amount has been updated to $3,000, which is as per the invoice amount. And now we are ready to confirm this invoice and take further actions accordingly. So yeah, this was a brief demonstration about the project vendor upgraded invoice functionality and the invoice revision updates. Uh, I will also take you across the general availability of these features which we just discussed. So all the three features, including the one explained by Sankalp, budgeting and forecasting, invoice revision, and the upgraded vendor invoicing, is available in selected regions as of now. Invoice revision is as recent as December 2023, but for general availability, these are expected to be available for all of us by March 2024. Yes, that is about it from my side. Time for any questions and answers, if at all.
All right. First of all, thank you so much, Kuldeep, Sayantan, and Sankalp for giving us the deep dive into the new features for project operations and Copilot. And checking the chat, I don't see any questions at the moment. Maybe something that you can share as a summary for the guys.
So yeah, I think we have still a few minutes left. So maybe if there are any questions from the audience, we are happy to take it and post it on the chat.
Yes, in the chat, or also you can just raise your hand. And if there are no questions at the moment, as I don't see any requests, please feel free to reach to our team. You can find also their contact here. Can you please go one slide
Yes,
to the
please.
contacts? Yes. So please reach Kuldeep, Sayantan, and Sankalp directly in LinkedIn. We also will provide you the email in the chat, or you can contact directly us to our team at look@proMX.net, and we will support you with your projects and anything that you might want to implement to transform your business. In this case, we will close the session. Thank you once more, everybody. Thank you once more, the team and our audience for staying today with us. And follow us also on LinkedIn. Check our upcoming events. We will also provide all the updates about the recordings and the upcoming news there. And see you soon on the upcoming webinars. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have
Thank
a
you so
great day.
much, guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.